In this video, we're going to talk about a very important figure in Irish music. Throughout the 1900s, Irish music was going through various ups and downs. The first wave of the folk revival around the turn of the 20th century was all about preservation and nationalism. Ireland was still very much under British rule, but a few decades later, near the mid-1900s, another wave was coming, characterised by innovation, performance, and bringing Irish music to the global stage. One man was, and please forgive the pun, but one man was instrumental in shaping music within Ireland and globally. His name was Seán Ó Riada. Seán Ó Riada stands as the defining architect of the 1960s Irish music revival. He basically took a tradition that was rooted in solo performances, and he radically shifted it towards ensemble playing through his group Ceoltóirí Chualann, which we'll touch a little bit on later on, of course. His work merged modern compositional techniques with native sounds, right? Think of it this way, he was validating the genre for a more contemporary audience. Through his film scores, writings and broadcasts, he became a massive household name, effectively leading the second wave of the folk revival and securing his status as a cultural icon. Seán Ó Riada was born in Cork in 1931, and he was raised in Adair in County Limerick, under the roof of a Garda sergeant. His education at St Finbarr's and St Munchin's gave him a rigorous musical grounding under Alois Fleischmann Sr., seeing him master the violin, organ and piano, skills he put to use playing evenings in local dance bands. While he graduated from University College Cork in 1952 with a degree in classics, his collaboration with Alois Fleischmann Jr. on sources of Irish traditional music kept him tethered to the musical history of the island. A transformative few months in France in 1955 as well solidified his modernist leanings, and this is important, we're going to touch on this later on. Upon returning, he took the reins as music director at the Abbey Theatre until 1962, and from there then he experimented with pit orchestras and composed avant-garde works like Nomos No. 1, exploring the edges of European modernism long before he turned his full attention to the reformation of Irish folk. In 1959, everything changed. Ó Riada composed the score for George Morrison's Mise Éire, I Am Ireland, a film which was documenting the founding of the Republic, and immediately found himself at the centre of national acclaim. He approached Irish airs and sean-nós songs with the same rigorous orchestral techniques used by nationalist composers like Vaughan Williams, Dvorak and Bartók. This fusion validated the native tradition within a classical framework, proving these melodies could carry the weight of a symphony. The overwhelming public response led directly to his radio series, Our Musical Heritage. In these broadcasts, he championed the raw source material, famously advising listeners to approach sean-nós singing with the openness of a child. Yet, he also wielded the microphone as a weapon. He launched scathing attacks on the establishment, describing the popular accordion-heavy Céilí bands of the 1950s as arguing that the rhythmic rigidity destroyed the soul of the music. Imagine the scene. Families gathered around the wireless for a nice cultural program, only to hear the host turn around and say that their favourite Saturday night dance band was pure garbage. It actually reminds me of my own time starting out in college, where one of my lecturers always insisted that there's no such thing as bad music, only music that you personally don't like. You think Ó Riada, with his vast experience, would have shared the same sentiment, but it really seemed like he didn't. He was very dead set on his vision, and that was important as well. And despite whether people would agree or disagree with him, it was important that he stuck with his vision. This national debate anyway, it split the country, creating a gap between the commercial side and the traditionalists. This separation probably protected the tradition from losing its authenticity. Through this unique mix of education and agitation, he secured his status as a titan of Irish music, permanently weaving his sound into the national identity. Around 1960, Ó Riada assembled Ceoltóirí Chualann to score the Song of the Anvil. He gathered heavy hitters like Paddy Maloney, Sean Potts, Sonny Brogan, and John Kelly, musicians who would later form the backbone of the Chieftains. Named after the region outside Dublin where Ó Riada lived, the group chose clear, simple arrangements instead of the loud, busy sound of other Céilí bands at the time. He made two radical instrumental choices that also defined their sound. Firstly, he introduced a harpsichord built by Gaeltacht. He had actually wanted to use a wire-strung harp, the clarsach, though the instrument was effectively dead at this point, and only newer versions of the harp were being built. These ones had gut strings, and apparently he despised these. According to himself, they sounded too polite. It just wasn't the sound that he was after. The harpsichord apparently was the most accessible way for him to get the sound that he was looking for. Secondly, he brought the bodhrán back to the forefront. Previously relegated to stuff like street parades, he dragged this frame drum to centre stage, establishing it as the heartbeat of modern Celtic music. It's worth noting here as well that he had a reason for doing all of this, right? Everything served a deeper philosophical purpose. Ó Riada was absolutely obsessed with the concept of the music of the nobles. He had argued before that before the flight of the earls, Irish music was high art, patronised by chieftains, not just folk tunes played in kitchens.
Classical music tradition in this country, it's entirely a folk music tradition that you find here.
Well, no, I would differentiate between a folk and classical. When you say classical, you mean European classical. There is not a European classical music tradition in this country. There is, on the other hand, a highly developed traditional music, which, because it's orally transmitted, must not be considered essentially as folk music. For example, in the Orient, you have music which is orally transmitted but is still highly developed. Yeah. You have the court music of Japan, for example, and the Korean novices music, that kind of thing. Here we also have highly developed traditional music, very complex, very sophisticated, but it's more Oriental than Western.
And it's still alive?
Oh, it's very much so.
In a very transmitted as an oral, in an oral tradition.
Yes, absolutely.
By introducing the harpsichord and the evening wear that they wore when they were playing their music, he was aggressively reclaiming that lost aristocratic image, insisting that Turlough O'Carolyn's tunes deserved the same status as Vivaldi. The group's performance was a deliberate and strong statement. Ceoltóirí Chualann played in concert halls dressed in black suits and bow ties. This forced the audience to respect their folk music as they would classical music. But behind the scenes, Ó Riada ran the group with an iron fist. He demanded absolute submission to his vision. When you watch the footage of the group playing, you see focused professionals staring intently at their conductor, not so much terrified of playing a wrong note, but very aware that perfection is key. Have you ever seen the movie Whiplash? If not, I highly recommend it. I obviously never met Seán Ó Riada personally, but from reading about this side of him and his art, I feel like this would be a somewhat comical representation of it. He basically extracted high art from the ensemble through sheer force of will. In 1963, Ó Riada traded the Dublin spotlight for the deep roots of the Cork Gaeltacht, moving to Valliaverne, not Céilí, which is often mixed up. Oh Jesus, how do you pronounce this thing again?
Cool Aoda.
I know, I'm only having you on. It's Céilí, yeah. It was often mixed up with Céilí, not Céilí or Céiléda or whatever that fella said. Honest to God, this howtopronounce.com is atrocious. Let's listen to it one more time.
Cool Aoda.
Cool Aoda. Well, he did it better than I did the last time. What did I even say the last time? It got lots of bad comments, so it must have been bad. Anyway, Céilí, let's carry on. But he didn't exactly arrive quietly. Picture this: the narrow, muddy roads of rural West Cork, dominated by tractors and bicycles, but suddenly hosting a massive, gleaming Ó Riada navigated these rough roads like a lord in exile, often stepping out of the car wearing a black cape and holding a silver-tipped cane. It was a piece of absurdist theatre, the saviour of so-called peasant music, living like an 18th century aristocrat, creating a local legend that was half myth, half reality. After settling there with his Jag while lecturing at UCC, he turned his creative focus inward to the community, establishing the male choir, Cór Céilí, or Cór Céilí, whichever you prefer. He composed Ceoltóirí Chualann, which was the first mass written entirely in the Irish language, gifting the culture the hymn Ag Christ an Síl, which remains a staple of the liturgy today. His final public bow remains the stuff of legends. Just weeks before his death, he recorded Ó Riada's Farewell, a solo album featuring harpsichord tracks and spoken word. The recording captures a man fully aware of his mortality, playing with a fragile, haunting precision that serves as a final testament to his vision. His life ended abruptly and tragically. Suffering from cirrhosis of the liver, he was flown to King's College Hospital in London, where he died on October 3rd, 1971. At the very young age of 40, he was brought home to rest in St. Goblet's graveyard in Ballyaverne, with the legendary piper Willie Clancy playing his lament at the graveside. He was a once-in-a-century character who single-handedly altered the trajectory of Irish traditional music. You see this power most clearly in the song Mogilamar, originally written for Bonnie Prince Charlie. The anthem shifted, meaning the day his choir sang it at his funeral, the nation now sings those lyrics for Ó Riada instead. He became the true hero of the song. Furthermore, his work with Ceoltóirí Chualann directly spawned the Chieftains, who carried his vision to global stardom. I don't have a video about the Chieftains as of yet, but I do have one about Paddy Maloney, who led them. Feel free to check it out as well if you'd like to learn a little bit more about it. All in all, despite his flaws, which we all have, he was true to his vision and stuck with it, and thanks to that, he shifted the course of music in Ireland and played a huge part in how it's perceived and heard throughout the world today. So thanks a million for watching. Please, if you've made it this far and have enjoyed the video, please hit that like button. It really helps out. While you're at it as well, feel free to leave a comment below and subscribe so you don't miss future videos. I've got a few really interesting ones coming up as well that I'm sure you'll love, similar to my interview with Hank Riedel in talking about the Rakes of Mallow. If you haven't seen that one, check it out, because I have some details there as well on how you can win something from the Inside Irish Music Shop. I'm basically just doing a wee giveaway for Christmas on that video, so check it out and see. As always, I'd also like to give a shout out to our channel members. Here's your names up on screen now. Thanks a million to everyone, and a warm welcome as well to Redmond J. Walsh. Thanks a million for joining, and I'm so glad to have you along for the journey. If you'd like to join them and support the channel, you can click the join button down below, or you can check out the links in the description for more information. Also, for the best comment on the last video has to go to Chrishan61. Glenn answered with Lisa O'Neill on the Shane McGowan tribute album would be awesome, and I think it's quite a possibility as well. Also a shout out to Chrishan as well for asking for this Seán Ó Riada video a few weeks ago. It bumped it up the list for sure. I myself enjoyed learning more about him and thoroughly enjoyed making this video. But anyway, that's it all from me. I hope you enjoyed the video, but more importantly, I hope you have a great day, no matter where you are in the world. Slán go fóill. Cheers.